Welcome to Snohomish Real Estate Insider, your go-to real estate podcast for agents, buyers, sellers, and investors. We dive into market trends, expert insights, and actionable strategies to help you succeed. Whether you're growing your business or making informed decisions, we've got you covered. Let's get started. Here's your host, Kevin Wick.
Well, let's go ahead and get started. Well, welcome.
Thank you so
Julie.
much.
I'm glad to have you here. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Well, first, let me get started. I'm Kevin Wick. I'm designated broker of the John L. Scott Everett office in coordination with the Mill Creek office. And we have Julie here, Julie Krause with the Thomas and Krause team. Why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself? Tell me a little bit about who you are.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I have a little story then, I guess I could say. So I started my real estate career in 2013. And having been at a large retailer for 25 years, I came to this business with the thought process that I was just ready for something a little bit different. And of course, my business partner, Mary Thomas Hendrickson, was already in real estate at the time. And it was one night on the back patio over a glass of wine where I said, I think I'm ready to do something different. And she said, why don't we form a business? And kind of the rest came from there. So I didn't have any experience in real estate at the time, but have always been very drawn to architecture and people, you know. And so people, of course, this is very much a people business. So that part of it, I feel like, has come naturally to me, but it was interesting seeing the differences in our approach. Mary having been in commercial real estate, and then me coming from Nordstrom, which was very much a people-driven business, and how we managed our businesses was very different. So we kind of balanced each other out really nicely. Sometimes I would go too far over on the service aspect of things when she would pull me back, and vice versa. She's dealing with her clients, and I'm like, you need to be a little bit, more receptive, and she, so we just have taken lessons from each other a lot over the last few years, and here we are.
So 12 years you guys have been doing this.
Yeah,
Excellent.
It's been 11. Well, it'll be 12 this year.
Yeah.
Yep, and it feels like it has just flown by.
I imagine.
Yeah.
I imagine it's been a crazy 12-year period. I mean, you guys came off of the tail end of the last great recession that we had, which was a great time to get into real estate. And it was still slow during that time. It was just starting to pick up when you first got into the business. That's for sure. And then obviously the COVID years, it was a little bit hectic and crazy for sure.
COVID was so interesting in that we really had to rethink what we were doing, and you just didn't know, what was happening and what was going to be coming in the future. And, going into the first 6 or 8 weeks, you remember when we were locked down, I was in a little bit of a quandary going, nothing's moving, nothing's happening. And then all of a sudden, everything started happening at the same time. And we were so incredibly busy. Yes. So incredibly, in a good way, Yeah. But, working with modifications to how we were doing things because of COVID and everything definitely made it a little bit more challenging. And meeting new people, you weren't necessarily doing that at open houses because we weren't holding them. So our database was really important, and the referral system that we had was super important. And that's really where a lot of our client base came from during that time frame.
That's not a bad place to come from, but and the thing is that market that we were in, it was so busy.
Yeah.
How was it when giving service to people? Because I imagine it was a little bit difficult. You weren't able to offer the level of service that you probably liked just because of you were restricted.
Yeah, we were definitely restricted. I think the expectations from our clients adjusted with what was happening though. So there was certainly getting homes ready to sell. We weren't doing the open houses necessarily, but we were ensuring that the property was well prepared, the market ready day one. Definitely going about it in that fashion. And we're really into staging. I'm really into staging. I love all that stuff, and I love just making a house come to life and making it look just cozy and homey and like someone can actually envision themselves there.
Yeah.
And so it's the small little details that are super important. And I think the clients that we had worked with during that time frame, a lot of them were buyers actually, kind of with the mass exodus out of the city. We were dealing with a lot of buyers at that time, but with our listings, I would say maybe it was half and half. Our clients just kind of let us do what we needed to do. I mean, we kind of offered our staging as part of our overall package of service. And with two of us, you know, they kind of have the best of both worlds because they definitely have someone available for them all the time. Mm-hmm. So that made a big difference, I think. And then having someone in an administrative role definitely helped us so we could spend more time on the things that we're really much better at.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we learned a lot during that time frame about how to work our business differently and not in such a traditional fashion that we had before.
Now that was 2021 and into 22.
Oh,
All
yeah.
of a sudden, 22 came around and
Yes.
things changed.
Yes.
So we hit a slow market, and slow is not even really doing it justice. I mean, what the statistics that are out there we haven't been this slow since 1995.
Yeah,
So
which of course
30
I wasn't
years.
doing this then.
know.
And I wasn't doing this during the Great Recession as well. I mean, it didn't really affect us because I was in a different industry altogether. But it was very eye-opening. So here's what I've learned. And just having been in the business for a while and knowing people that are in the business, there are two different types of realtors. There are the ones who plan and execute based on their plan for the financial aspect of things, putting their money away, ensuring that all their bills are paid, and basically having money put away for a rainy day. Super critical.
Yeah.
And then there are the other ones who, get their paycheck and they're like, drinks are on me kind of a thing, and not necessarily having a nest egg or an emergency fund of any kind. So I'm happy to say that we are the former, not the latter. And in our particular business, Mary is like my work wife, right? And so it was, if you can think of the proverbial paycheck just going to Mary, she managed all of that and ensured we had the money where it needed to be and that we were well covered. And so we've been able to weather a lot of that downturn pretty effectively in that regard.
I hear you saying you weathered it, but I got to tell you, you did more than weathered it. You guys were successful during that downturn.
Yeah, well,
you guys had a lot of stuff going on, but you still did a fair amount of business, which is very that's impressive.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It didn't necessarily rise to the standards that we had set for ourselves.
Sure.
And so that is where, you're always as good as your last transaction, and you're humbled by some of the things that you run across and the feedback that you receive, and all of that's really intended in my mind for us to learn and just be better at what we're doing. I've had a lot of that as of lately, it seems, which has made me kind of rethink a few things and how I'm approaching stuff. And just trying to be well balanced with how we're looking at our business and not just looking at it like a turn and burn type market. It's really important to me that we're developing relationships, we're developing a good client base, that when people need something, even if it's not necessarily I'm ready to sell my house, but hey, do you have any recommendations for how to handle X?
Right.
Or what do you think about, sprucing up my yard? I mean, it's like we're giving them advice and giving them feedback on things like that. Maybe it's over a glass of wine, maybe it's over a cup of coffee, or maybe it's just a quick phone call. But the fact that they feel comfortable enough to interact with us on that level means we did something right.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how I feel about it. So.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Now, during this time, because we're still in a slow market,
Yes.
we have not come out of it. We're not back to the brisk times at all. So, how do you keep yourself motivated? What keeps you going on a day-to-day basis?
I think that a lot of the process that we're following right now, Mary and I collectively, is taking our database, which we've discussed, and really just kind of going back to some basics with the things that we have already known to do. But I have had a tendency to get away from.
Right.
When you get busy, I can recall someone who was early on mentoring me saying, you're either working on your business or in your business. And so when you're working in your business, a lot of realtors are not necessarily spending the time to nurture the things that are coming in the future, their pipeline, because they're focused on what's happening in the here and now. And so then when all of that's finished, you don't have your pipeline. So we're trying to kind of get our pipeline going for the rest of the year. There's things that are definitely going to be taking place, I would think, as we kind of go through the different months that we have coming. Some will be better, some will be worse. But I think finding the value for people in making a transition or a change is going to be really critical, with the market being the way that it is and the kind of trajectory of interest rates and what we anticipate happening. I think there's a lot of people just sitting and waiting. And the education behind that really needs to be around sitting and waiting isn't necessarily the best strategy, because everybody's doing the same thing. And the moment you've got a quarter point drop in your rates, you've got an increase of about 7% of your buyer pool, which means with low inventory, more buyers, you're going to have more offers on places. You're going to start, anyway, what happens after that. So really getting into a property and maybe having the interest rates where they are now, getting a more creative type of financing with a buy down if you're going to be there for a while. Those sorts of things are going to get you into a property where, we really don't lose money on our properties around here. So it's a pretty terrific investment, no matter how you slice it.
I was looking at some stats just the other day. All the major municipalities, all the Dallas, Colorado, all of the different ones, and you look at over the last 25 years, and in that 25-year period, you see the downturn in 2008, and then you see the COVID downturn as well after COVID.
Yep.
And if you take a look at all the different areas, there was only a few of the areas that had that massive downturn where it took 10 years to come back, whereas mostly like even Dallas and stuff like that, they only saw a little bit of a downturn, and then it just rose and rose and rose, and which is it's amazing to see how local the business is. Because Seattle is its own market, and it definitely behaves like its own market. It doesn't copy anybody else. It's unique in its own sense, which is just like every other market. But it's good to keep that in perspective whenever you're out there, for sure.
And we have a lot of transplants in the Seattle market, in particular Seattle and the east side, because of all of our tech and all of the businesses we have that have started here. And we're waterlocked. We're waterlocked. So when you see that we're waterlocked, we're either going to go vertical, right, with housing, which is what's happening a little bit in Seattle, with some of the zoning changes and such, or you're going to start seeing the massive spread to the north and to the south and to the east. And the properties are, becoming more sought after in some of the areas that are closer in, but their price points are definitely more significant as well for, an older home or what have you. So the people that are buying in the city are intended to buy in the city. That's what they want. They don't want an hour and a half commute one way. And there's a lot of people that they just can't afford to live in the city. So they are heading out north or heading out south or what have you, because they have families they want to raise, or, whatever's happening with them, and they're doing the commute.
I think also during COVID, we saw a mass exodus out of the city. I think people are now starting to come back to the city as well. It's not the same urgency that they experienced during COVID, but it's definitely happening, because I think that, Seattle is seeing a rebound, and it's been strong even during that first downturn. We still saw prices appreciating, which was just amazing, and we're still seeing it today. So, and we're expecting the spring market to be just as brisk as the last time. So, and because of that, there's going to be a buyer's premium on different properties, it just like we have experienced the last 5 years.
Yes,
So,
and our inventory remains low, and it always has. I mean, it's funny if you look at what 4 months, 5 months of inventory being like a normal inventory. I don't think it's ever been that way since I've been here. So to us, our normal inventory is more like 2 months.
Right.
So we're used to that. When we
Right.
see properties come on the market, it looks like there's a lot, but really there's not.
Yeah.
So you have to really maximize what you see coming. So.
Now, how do you keep your mindset on track, during this slow time? What do you do specifically to keep your mind right?
Okay, so that's a great question. I feel that for me anyway, it's important to balance myself out a little bit because I have a tendency to be kind of a workaholic and very focused in a specific area. I get really excited about it. I love what I do. I mean, I love real estate. I love working with people, but it becomes kind of an obsession almost sometimes. So I definitely have other interests outside of work that I try to invest my time and energy in, and I think that's a good balance. And just really kind of investing time in the people that I am helping, and the ones that I have helped, and hopefully will help again in the future. It's something that I feel like it's a constant battle because you want to invest the time and energy in doing your business and doing it well, but a lot of it is not about, you've heard that old saying about working harder versus working smarter. Sometimes we get spinning our wheels and we're working harder when we really just need to stop ourselves and just give ourselves a moment to breathe and go back to what we know works.
Vacations are actually a good thing, believe
Yes.
it or not. Taking that time away from work is important. It
Oh, yeah.
allows you to actually get rejuvenated and refocused. So
100%. 100% agree.
yeah,
Yep.
I know people can have a tendency to forget that, which is which is just the reality because they get stuck in the moment. They're working in the business rather than on the business.
Yeah.
They're working in their life rather than on their life, and
Yeah.
and so it just gets away from them. So
I know I've heard where there's some realtors who've been around for a long time that maybe they take the whole month of December off, for example. And I'm like, we're busy in December. It's like, to me, it's like we can tag team, which is awesome. It's like we give each other schedules, and sometimes we go away together, which is kind of hilarious because we have our laptops with us, wherever we go. But sometimes we need a little bestie time, so we'll go for a weekend or what have you. But when she's gone, the last vacation Mary took was 2 weeks. It was amazing for her. That's what she needed. And I just hold the fort down, while she's gone, and vice versa. She holds the fort down when I'm gone, and we're on the phone with each other and texting and such just to make sure we've got all of our pieces covered. But I feel really blessed to have that option because a lot of people don't have that option. I just think it's better for our clients,
Now, what would you recommend for a newer agent to help them in this tough time that we're experiencing, a slow market?
Well, I think that getting in front of as many people as possible would be a really wise thing. So picking up open houses is a great way to do that. Actually going and maybe shadowing an agent that is a good person that does open houses is really well prepared for open houses is a wonderful way for people to kind of see how things are done or how they're done by another person, how they prepare for it, that sort of thing. And then their sphere, it really does come down. It really does come down to your sphere in a lot of ways. And you add to that as you kind of have gone through and gained more experience. There's more people that you might add to your sphere, people who might drop off that, aren't around anymore or what have you. But really, it's just kind of focusing on the ones that can kind of bring some life into what you're doing, or give you feedback, on what you're doing. And I think putting ego aside is really important. You need to humble yourself as a new agent and just soak up as much information as you possibly can. And, you develop your own style.
Yeah.
And, you develop your own style that works well for the people that you're supporting. And that's how you enjoy what you're doing.
I'm glad you mentioned, soaking up as much information as you can. That's the one thing that I think is forgotten in our industry, just because you have required clock hours, which I think are, basically are not helpful. But education is the most important thing. If you can take classes over and over again, the ones that are important, whether it's on open houses or on listing presentations or whatever the class is, do that class multiple times so you really are that expert. Learn the contracts backwards and forwards, so that way you're not going to get caught off guard with a question. And that way you're always looked as an expert. So when you are asking for referrals, they know that they want to refer you because of how well you've taken care of them.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think as well, clients have different ways of approaching things, and lenders have different ways of approaching things. It's like, so I look at kind of all of that. If I'm dealing with someone who uses the other side of the brain that I don't use, more, like more of an engineer type, things like that, I will kind of tailor how I'm focusing on things to what I think is going to work well for them. Yeah. Or you have people that are just numbers people. They just want the facts. They're not interested in really, developing much of a relationship or anything. They just want things to get done. And how you approach that's going to be a little bit different too.
Right.
So it's really kind of taking and modifying things a little bit to make sure that your message is you get your message across well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Now, you already have a built-in peer partner with Mary. And so, that's the other thing I'd recommend for agents out there is, especially if you're struggling, find somebody like-minded as you and work with them, whether you're working on scripts together or whether you're just at the end of the day decompressing with one another. I think it's valuable to have that in front of you, and it's only going to expand what you're going to get, because what you focus on expands. And if you focus on, positive momentum type stuff like that, it will allow you to grow and actually get the results that you're looking for.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of new blood, new energy here, which is kind of fun to see. And just seeing some of the agents, and they're relatively new starting out, but super focused, really excited about what they're doing, very open to feedback, and just everybody I've noticed is helping each other out a lot. And that's kind of how I like to operate. That's not necessarily how a lot of people operate, but that seems to work well. It's like people need help, you help them, or share information with them that can make it easier for them to do their jobs. Or frankly, a lot of them are really technically inclined and do fabulous jobs with their socials, for example. Right. And it's like we could learn a lot from how they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. As I have noticed every time I'm over here, your guys' door is always open for people, which is kind of cool. So I definitely appreciate.
I like talking to the newer agents, and I've had a few of them sitting our opens, and you'd send them a little thank you card and just appreciate that they're spending their time, to get your listing shown and everything. It's just little bits of like that go a long way.
It's value for them because they're picking up clients. It's value to you because you're going to get your listing exposed for your sellers a little bit more. So definitely, always a good thing. So now let's go over one more thing, or let's add one more thing to this, is goal setting. How important is setting your goals during this slow time to make sure that you stay on track?
I think that's actually very important, and it's one of the things that we have kind of struggled with, honestly. We just are flying into the next thing, into the next thing, into the next thing, and not having that roadmap, I think, doesn't necessarily give you the vision that you need. So we've started to look at that differently. It's never really come up because we've been so busy with everything that we've been doing. We're just like, nope, we're going to hit this, and then we just kind of go. When you're in a different market, which we've been in the last couple of years, the view of it's different. Yeah. And you have to be a little bit more thoughtful in how you're approaching things. So I think, again, going back to the database, and we're transitioning ours right now over to Engage, which I'm really excited about because there's so many tools that we can use in Engage that are going to really help us to kind of facilitate some of that conversation and some of those touch points with clients. So I'm excited to get that up and running completely. But yeah, just really focusing on the basics, I think, is going to be really important for people during a downturn, and preparing yourself for when it's busy. Yeah. Because, and honestly, it's kind of like you could be busy even if it's not busy, right?
There's a lot of people that have hit beyond their have gone above and beyond what they could imagine they can do. And so, it's.
I think a lot of it can be a thought process.
Yeah.
It's like it's kind of like anything else. If you think about our business as being slow, then that is a mindset. If you're falling into that mindset, then you're probably going to be in a little bit of trouble. But if you're thinking, there's always somebody out there. There's always going to be somebody out there. And a lot of the time it's education and a good understanding of what they have the capability to do, meaning the financing piece of it is really critical right now. And so having very good interaction and relationships built with the different lenders that are out there and what products they have to offer, and that they're available. My big thing is they need to be available on the weekends. Yeah. They need to be available when I need them. Yeah. They need to be on text message. They need to be able to send me letters, whatever's going on. I don't like working with lenders who are Monday through Friday people, because it doesn't help me when I'm dealing with clients in the evening time and the weekends. So being very choosy about who you are investing in that's helping you support your business, I think, is really critical.
Well, and knowing the programs that are out there, like you mentioned, 2-1 buy downs and stuff like that, knowing those programs out there and being able to articulate them to your client is important. You don't need to be an expert at loans, but you still need to know how to articulate what the different programs are and making sure that they know they have options.
Yes, and when you look at our housing market in this Mill Creek area is one of 17 cities in the state this year that had gone over $1 million on an average price point. It's like you're talking jumbo loans, you're talking all kinds of different products that we're not necessarily experts on, but you got to bring somebody in who is able to speak on those things and with confidence, really, because it's scary, for people when they're making moves, especially if they have never done it before, or if they're, downsizing and it's been 10 years or whatever since they've bought. Everything's changed from the last time they did it. So the education starts all over again.
Absolutely. And that's something. That's why we're here. Just to talk more and just to let people know that there's other options out there. So
definitely.
Right on. Well, good. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I'm really excited that we're doing these podcasts. It's a great way to kind of impart knowledge. And get some focus out there for people and get them excited about what's happening. And hopefully we'll get more agents in here to chat.
Absolutely. This has been good. I'd love to do it with you again.
I would. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning into the Snohomish Real Estate Insider podcast. Tune in next week for more market trends, expert insights, and actionable strategies. Make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode.